Well, this area has a rich heritage of Native American folklore that was told throughout the years, and one of them was one of the stories that my grandmother always talked about, and I had others tell in and out of the family about it. Is it true? I don't know. But I'll tell the story as it was told to me. In the early 1870s, it was quite evident that the military and the government was trying to push the Sioux out of southwest Nebraska. Fort Kearny over here and Fort Hays to the south. Both were sending troops in trying to pick a fight with the Sioux. One of the troops came up from Kansas, and about 120 men. And they came up here into the Nebraska side, up a canyon. One of the bigger deep canyons, about 20 miles long that canyon runs. And it finally pours into the Republican River Valley. Well, if they'd have kept going, that army troop was going to run into a Sioux encampment. A few hundred Sioux were living there. And of course, the Sioux spotted the cavalry long before the cavalry spotted them. And so they started getting their encampment and getting ready to move it as fast as they could. But they were going to need at least an hour and a half to get out of the area, which is still incredible for what they had to do and how quickly they had to move and get out of the area. And if they didn't, they'd have been wiped out by that cavalry. What they did, though, they asked for volunteers, and one boy, well, he was a young man, barely past a boy in age, he said he would stay and stop the cavalry from coming on. So what they did, they loaded him on a horse and took him about halfway between the cavalry and the Indian encampment, about 3 miles down. And the cavalry was another 3 miles on past him and coming. And so that young Indian man, he took, and he couldn't move very fast because he had a broken leg. Now, he had yet to become even a warrior in that clan. The broken leg slowed him down in something fierce. So what he did, the only way he could walk is, of course, with a stick. And he got on one of the bluffs there after he went down to the creek when they dropped him off, and they went back and was doing all they could to get out of the area then. He took the stick that he used to walk with his broken leg, and he smeared it with mud. Then he went up on the bluff on the side there of that canyon. Well, the old cavalry, they came up, and they had some Pawnee scouts in advance of the troops, and he raised up, and with that muddy stick, it looked like he had a rifle. He raised up like that, and then back down, and of course they spotted him, and then he slid where they couldn't see him down a little ways, and then he did it again, and then he slid, and he did it again. So it looked like there was better than a half a dozen Sioux waiting to jump them there. And if they were there, I bet there's a bunch of other Sioux around. Probably a big old Sioux trap to wipe them out. Well, the Pawnee, they told the general. And so the old general, he was pretty spooky. And he sent Pawnee scouts on both sides and behind them to make sure they weren't getting set up with some kind of a trap. It took better than an hour before they got back to him and said there aren't no Sioux around. And so they moved on up that canyon, and that boy would still stick his gun up, and his wooden stick up, and finally they started shooting. It was no time because they were shooters. They were good shots. They got him, killed him. They got up there. Then the general and everybody found out how stupid they was, that one boy with a broken leg and a wooden stick had stopped them. And they went on up and they found encampments that had been emptied and evacuated, and the tribe of 200 got out of the area. And that was a pretty devastating thing for that old general. Now that boy did two things that day. He saved that encampment from being wiped out, every man, woman, and child. But he also sealed the fate of that general. Because that general said, I will never hold back my men in fear of a trap ever again. And that general, that old general was General Custer. And that's the story I was told. Myth or not, but that's the story I was told. Rate this film.